Hey guys, I hope you're excited for this video because I worked really hard on this video. But before we get started, I'm going to be really quick with this. Once we get to 30,000 followers on Instagram, I'm going to buy one of my Instagram followers an autograph of their choice. Meaning, if you're a diehard Barry Sanders fan, if you're an Odell Beckham Jr. fan, I got you with an autographed jersey, football, whatever. This is my autographed Jerry Rice football, and honestly, I'm very attached to it because, dude, Jerry Rice, he's like the GOAT. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, let's get to this video. My Instagram is going to be in the description down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. The 2004 draft was one of the deepest drafts in recent memory, featuring the likes of Larry Fitzgerald, Sean Taylor, D'Angelo Hall, Vince Wilfork, and yes, Jared Allen. And that's all before I even bring up the quarterback class. This class featured 4 future Pro Bowl quarterbacks: Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, and the crown jewel of them all, Matt Schaub. Nah, I'm just kidding. The crown jewel of them all was Eli Manning. Now, I know this sounds like a joke to you guys because of how Eli Manning has been playing more recently, but allow me to give you a scope of 2004 so you can truly understand why Eli Manning was so coveted. In 2004, Eli's brother Peyton was coming off of his first MVP season after leading the Colts to a 12-4 record. He too was a former #1 overall pick. Eli's dad, Archie, also played in the NFL. This provided both Mannings with the ultimate blueprint to success in the NFL if they chose to do so, which every brother besides Cooper decided to pursue. In addition to the fact that Eli Manning comes from a family which is practically an assembly line for quarterbacks, Eli Manning provided us with a fantastic track record. During his time at Ole Miss, Manning threw for over 10,000 passing yards, which is 5th on the SEC career list, 81 touchdown passes, which is good for 3rd on the SEC career list, and a passer rating of 137.7. Looking at then Giants general manager Ernie Accorsi's scouting report of Eli Manning, Eli was praised for his arm and his poise, which is pretty much what won him his 2 Super Bowls. The San Diego Chargers would hit the lottery with the #1 pick in the NFL draft and made it clear that they would draft Eli Manning with the #1 pick. This gave the San Diego Chargers general manager the luxury to begin negotiations with Manning on a contract prematurely, to ensure that Manning would get to camp on time and that no holdout would ensue. Kind of like what happened to Jamarcus Russell on the Oakland Raiders 3 years later. But when AJ Smith, the Chargers general manager, reached out to Tom Condon, Manning's agent, Condon essentially told him that there will be no negotiation because Manning refuses to play for the San Diego Chargers. In fact, Condon went as far to say that Manning would sit out the entire 2004 season if the Chargers drafted him with the 1st overall pick. How could this be? Well, according to AJ Smith, he believed the reason for this was because of Archie Manning, stating that Condon told me that Archie wishes that we do not select Eli and that they think he would be a good fit in New York. However, in a more recent interview, Archie Manning said that it was Eli and Tom Condon's decision. Now, there are many theories about why Eli Manning would not want to go to the Chargers. For example, going into the 2004 season, the Chargers have only put together 4 winning seasons since the 1980s. This pretty much made them the Cleveland Browns of the early 2000s, although not as extreme. This led to the San Diego Chargers drafting Eli Manning and then trading him to the New York Giants for Phillip Rivers. But what if Eli Manning decided to stay with the San Diego Chargers? Would he have had a better career? Would the NFL be more entertaining? Following the draft, the Chargers experienced consecutive successful seasons, although Phillip Rivers didn't start during his rookie year due to a contract holdout, which resulted in Drew Brees starting at quarterback for the 2004 season. Brees would then lead the Chargers to a 12-4 season and a 9-7 season the year after. In Phillip Rivers' first season as a starter, the Chargers would dominate the NFL en route to a 4-2 season in 2006. The Chargers would go 11-5 in 2007 before finally breaking even at 8-8 in 2008. It's important to note that Rivers was the final piece to an incredible young Chargers core that featured LaDainian Tomlinson, Lorenzo Neal, Vincent Jackson, Antonio Gates, and a young Darren Sproles on offense, and Shawn Merriman, Eric Weddle, and Antonio Cromartie on defense. Vincent Jackson, Darren Sproles, and Shawn Merriman were added a year or two after Phillip Rivers was drafted, but you get the point. Eli Manning, on the other hand, also had a fairly promising course surrounding him, which featured players like Jeremy Shockey, Plaxico Burress, and the accomplished Amani Toomer and Tiki Barber. So let's take you back to 2004. The San Diego Chargers have been awarded the #1 overall pick. The owner of the Chargers, Dean Spanos, is excited and nervous because the last time he was in this situation was when the Chargers went all in to trade for the #2 spot in the 1998 NFL Draft for the right to draft either Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf. And you have to understand, that type of situation is not nearly as stressful as this type of situation, because when you have the #2 pick and there's 2 coveted players, you just have to take the player that was not selected #1. However, this time the Chargers control their own destiny, and there is no way they can pass on the opportunity to draft Eli Manning with the #1 overall pick. There's just too much potential. He is a Manning, and they wanted him. So with the #1 pick in the 2004 NFL Draft,
San Diego Chargers select Eli Manning, cornerback, Mississippi.
And this time they aren't going to trade him. The Raiders, being, well, the Raiders, decide to waste their #2 overall pick and draft Robert Gallery over Larry Fitzgerald, Phillip Rivers, or Sean Taylor. The Cardinals still select Larry Fitzgerald, and the Giants, however, stay pat at #4, but they don't take Phillip Rivers. They take Ben Roethlisberger, which is exactly where the Miami of Ohio prospect wanted to go. Well, something you should all keep in mind about Phillip Rivers is the fact that he was a late riser in draft boards, whose draft stock was trending upwards. He was essentially the Patrick Mahomes of 2004. According to an interview with then Giants GM Ernie Accorsi, the Giants' backup plan was Ben Roethlisberger, and they didn't have him ranked that much lower than Eli Manning. Accorsi actually would use this as leverage in his negotiations with the Giants to get Manning, as he stated that he did not call the Chargers called him. So the Giants take Ben Roethlisberger, and Phillip Rivers winds up with the Pittsburgh Steelers with the #11 pick, which according to Rivers is where he thought he was going to be drafted originally. Bill Cowher preferred Phillip Rivers over Big Ben anyways. So out of all 3 of these QBs, we can all agree that the Pittsburgh Steelers were the most ready to win a Super Bowl immediately. That's because Phillip Rivers steps into a situation that features Hall of Fame running back Jerome Bettis, Joey Porter, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, and eventually the promising Santonio Holmes, and thus begins the 2004 season. Given the weapons surrounding Rivers and the fact that the Steelers needed him to start immediately, Rivers starts the entire year and wins the NFL's Offensive Rookie of the Year award. Rivers would throw 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions to go along with 31 yards in his rookie year, leading the Steelers to a 13-3 record before losing in the conference championship to the eventual Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. In the actual 2004 season, Phillip Rivers would hold out with the San Diego Chargers, and more recently in 2016, Joey Bosa would hold out during his contract negotiations with the Chargers. So because of this information and the fact that the Chargers could afford to bring Eli Manning along slowly because they still had Drew Brees, Eli would fail to start for the San Diego Chargers due to a holdout which would cause him to miss training camp. So Eli Manning and the San Diego Chargers front office collectively pooped themselves during the 2004 NFL season as Drew Brees throws for 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions while leading the Chargers to a 12-4 record. As for the New York Giants, they would go on and start red hot over the first half of the season. Kurt Warner would actually lead the Giants to a 5-2 record, and this actually happened in real life. In Week 9, however, the Giants would lead against the Bears 14-0, and at the end of the first quarter, the Giants would go on to turn the ball over 5 times against the Bears and would end up losing 21-28. This would result in Tom Coughlin announcing that Roethlisberger is going to be the starter for the Giants in Week 9. Now, during his rookie year, Eli Manning would only win 1 more game for the New York Giants and posted a passer rating of 55.4. Ben Roethlisberger, on the other hand, had a fantastic rookie year for the Steelers and had a passer rating of 98.1. And given the fact that Amani Toomer was coming off of a 1,000-yard receiving season the year prior, when his quarterback was Kerry Collins, it's definitely safe to say that Ben Roethlisberger would form a great tandem with both Amani Toomer and Jeremy Shockey to lead the Giants to a 9-7 record, which is good enough for a playoff berth, where they would lose to Brett Favre's Packers 24-14. Roethlisberger would throw for 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions in the loss. The 2004 Super Bowl would feature the Patriots and the Eagles, and just like in real life, the Patriots would defeat the Eagles. Now fast forward to the 2005 season and we begin to see the repercussions of Eli Manning deciding to stay in San Diego. The draft is where things get interesting. Since the Eli Manning trade never happened, the Giants never owed the Chargers their draft pick, which would wind up being the 20th pick in the NFL draft in this scenario, which means the Carolina Panthers would draft Shawn Merriman over Thomas Davis. The Chiefs would take Thomas Davis instead of Derrick Johnson, and Derrick Johnson winds up with the New York Giants with the 20th pick in the NFL draft. The Giants would then draft Justin Tuck in the 3rd round, which means going into the 2005 season, the Giants would have a defense that's composed of Derrick Johnson, Justin Tuck, Osi Umenyiora, and Michael Strahan. Now that's just terrifying. I could already imagine the Cowboys, Redskins, and Eagles having nightmares of that pass rush. The Chargers would still take Vincent Jackson at the end of the 2nd round and Darren Sproles at the end of the 4th round. Despite the Steelers improving their draft position modestly, they still had Heath Miller ranked high on their draft boards and select him in the draft. And the 2005 season would begin. The New York Giants would take off in the 2005 season. The additions of Derrick Johnson and Justin Tuck would be felt instantly on the defensive end, while the Giants were a force to be reckoned with on offense, riding Big Ben and the ageless Tiki Barber to a 14-2 record. Ben Roethlisberger would throw for 21 touchdowns and 12 interceptions to go along 3,000 yards, leading the Giants to a 1st-round bye, which is 3 more wins than they would have had if they had Eli Manning instead. Due to the Giants' improved record, the Bears would face the Panthers in the wild card as opposed to the divisional round like they did in reality. And like they did in reality, they would lose. The Giants would beat the Panthers 24-21 on a last-minute field goal to advance to the conference championship, where they meet the Seattle Seahawks for a shootout. Unfortunately, this is where the run would end, as Seattle would beat the Giants due to a crucial Tiki Barber fumble on a potential game-winning drive, and beat the Giants in a thrilling shootout 40-37. Ben Roethlisberger was awesome in this game, throwing for 4 touchdowns, 320 passing yards, but also tossing 2 interceptions. On the other hand, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the real deal. Phillip Rivers looks like one of the league's future cornerstones as he throws for 3,700 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. The Steelers narrowly beat the Colts, who are led by the league MVP, Peyton Manning. The Steelers are then able to make short work of the Denver Broncos and meet the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl, where they completely manhandled the Seahawks 35-14. The Super Bowl is considered to be one of the most one-sided Super Bowls in history, as Jerome Bettis was able to find the end zone 3 times and Phillip Rivers was able to throw 2 touchdowns. Phillip Rivers wins the Super Bowl in only his 2nd year as a pro quarterback. Now you might be wondering, what happens to the Chargers? Well, given the phenomenal season that Drew Brees had the year before, the Chargers had no choice but to start him and did so in hopes of being able to find a suitable trade partner, but to no avail. The Chargers finished 9-7 in Drew Brees' final season, as he would have in real life. Now we fast forward to the 2006 season, and Eli Manning in the AFC is definitely great for the NFL's ratings, as he now routinely battles Tom Brady and his brother Peyton. Eli Manning flashes potential with a 3,500-yard season in his first year as the starting quarterback of the Chargers, and throws 24 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. The addition of Vincent Jackson and LaDainian Tomlinson helps Manning lead the Chargers to a 14-2 season. This results in them getting a 1st-round bye. In reality, the Steelers would have an 8-8 season, but in this scenario they actually improved to 11-5 because of the excellent QB play of Phillip Rivers and Willie Parker's 1,500-yard rushing season. The Giants would actually make the playoffs and finish the season with an 8-8 record. The reason for this is because in reality, 2006 was Ben Roethlisberger's worst season as a QB. The Giants would get bounced out of the playoffs by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 1st round. Meanwhile, the Chargers actually would lose to the Patriots in real life in the divisional round. But since this time around they have Eli Manning, he is able to lead a 4th quarter drive to beat the Patriots 31-28. Which means, yes, you guessed it, in Eli Manning's first year as a starter of the San Diego Chargers, we already have a Manning Bowl in the AFC Conference Championship. Unfortunately for Eli, he cannot beat Big Brother Peyton. whose experience pays off in a victory over Eli to take the Colts to the Super Bowl, where they would beat the Chicago Bears. The 2007 NFL season is a season that would forever be remembered as the year that the Patriots almost went undefeated. This year will be significantly different though. Now that Eli Manning has the confidence from his incredible playoff run in only his first year under center for the Chargers, plus the fact that he has an incredible supporting cast and Tom Brady's number, the entire season shakes out completely differently. The Chargers and Patriots become one of the best rivalries in the NFL. The Chargers feature 8 Pro Bowlers, while the Patriots were re-energized from the addition of superstar wide receiver Randy Moss. These two would meet in week 2 of the season and would result in the Patriots manhandling the Chargers in a game that saw the Patriots win 35-24. Now, in the offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, their offensive coordinator Ken Wisenhunt would leave to pursue a job with the Cardinals. And ironically, the coach that would replace him in Arizona when he would get fired from that job, Bruce Arians, would be promoted from wide receiver coach to the offensive coordinator. In addition to this, the Steelers brought on Mike Tomlin as their head coach. Philip Rivers and the Steelers have a great season where they make the playoffs, but they lose in the first round against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who at the time were coached by Jack Del Rio and had Dirk Koetter as their offensive coordinator. The Chargers would have another incredible season, finishing 12-4. In reality, the Chargers win their wildcard game against the Tennessee Titans, beat the Indianapolis Colts, then lose to the New England Patriots. In this scenario, I have them beating all 3 of those teams because in reality, Eli Manning beat the Patriots with a far worse team in the Super Bowl in 2007. So defeating them in the AFC Championship when you have 8 Pro Bowlers on your squad is definitely reasonable. The Chargers meet the New York Giants in the Super Bowl in a battle that will give another QB of the 2004 draft class a championship. When you look at these stats, the Giants were ranked 12th in offense and 28th in defense that year. In this scenario, I'm going to bump them up to a 8th in total offense because Ben Roethlisberger played incredibly in 2007. So in this scenario, we're also going to assume he has it figured out in his 4th year. The Giants also have the 28th ranked defense, but due to the addition of Derrick Johnson, we'll bump that up to a 25. The Chargers, on the other hand, have the 11th ranked offense in real life and the 20th ranked defense. In this situation, we're going to downgrade their defense to a 23 due to the fact that they never had the opportunity to draft Shawn Merriman, and in a phenomenal Super Bowl between both teams, the Chargers are able to narrowly defeat the Giants 20-17 on a game-winning field goal. Eli Manning wins his first Lombardi trophy, which means LaDainian Tomlinson gets a Super Bowl ring. Moving on to the 2008 season, in a year that would be a great one for Philip Rivers, as he would lead the Steelers to an incredible 15-1 season. The Steelers would have originally gone 13-3 with Big Ben, but in reality this would be one of Philip Rivers' best years as a pro, as he would throw for more than 4,000 yards for the first time in his career, in addition to 34 touchdowns to only 11 interceptions. The Steelers would beat Eli Manning's Chargers in the divisional round and then make it all the way to the Super Bowl to meet Ben Roethlisberger's Giants, who was able to easily beat out his former mentor, which is Kurt Warner and the Arizona Cardinals, to make it to the Super Bowl. Big Ben would prevail in the Super Bowl to give him his first Super Bowl victory after a game-clinching touchdown to Plaxico Burress. Since the Giants win the Super Bowl, Plaxico Burress does not end up shooting himself in the foot at the club. Well, actually, he shot himself in the foot in November 28, 2008, so winning a Super Bowl doesn't really change much. So, in this scenario, Plaxico Burress still shoots himself in the foot. 2009 would find Philip Rivers in a Super Bowl once again, as he would have another fantastic season throwing 31 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. The Giants, on the other hand, would regress this year to an 8-8 record, while the Chargers would have another fantastic season with Norv Turner as their head coach, making the playoffs with a 13-3 record. In real life, Eli Manning would throw for 27 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. He would also throw for 4,000 yards. San Diego was also ranked 10th that year in total offense. Philip Rivers would throw 1 more touchdown and 5 less interceptions than Manning did for the Giants that year, but Manning was able to thrive individually despite having less around him on the Giants, as they were ranked 21st in total offense. So for that reason, we're going to assume Manning was significantly better than Rivers this season because he was able to pull off incredible statistics despite having significantly less to work with. In the playoffs, Eli Manning would face off against Philip Rivers and win, then beat his brother Peyton in the AFC Championship before facing his old mentor Drew Brees in the Super Bowl. But unfortunately for the Bolts, this what if doesn't alter much for Drew Brees, as he's able to beat the Chargers in one of the most entertaining Super Bowls in NFL history, as the score is 41-35. After this year, LaDainian Tomlinson would announce his retirement, and since he's already won the Super Bowl, he never has the need to join the New York Jets to chase a Super Bowl, which means the Chargers give him the send-off he truly deserves, and he never dons another team's jersey. 2010 would be a down year for the Chargers, as the injury to rookie Ryan Matthews would handicap the Norv Turner offense. The Chargers would go 8-8 and miss the playoffs, as the retirement of LaDainian Tomlinson is truly felt. 2010 was a huge year for Ben Roethlisberger, as he was able to demonstrate his ability to better take care of the ball, throwing only 5 interceptions on the whole year for the New York Giants. Unfortunately for Ben, his ability to take better care of the ball would not be good enough to defeat the Green Bay Packers. Philip Rivers has a phenomenal year, throwing for almost 5,000 yards. The decline of Hines Ward would also see the emergence of Mike Wallace, who would make an unstoppable combination with Philip Rivers and lead to his first MVP. This was good enough for a 13-3 record and an appearance in the Super Bowl. 2010 is also the year that the Steelers take a flyer on a promising young receiver named Antonio Brown. The Steelers would go on to meet the Packers in the Super Bowl, but nothing changes here. The Steelers would still lose to Aaron Rodgers' Packers. Now, 2011 would be the final year that this what-if scenario has a drastic effect on NFL history. The reason being that after this year, the AFC would be dominated by the Denver Broncos defense before the Patriots take over in the AFC. In this year, Philip Rivers would regress in his ability to take care of the ball, throwing 20 interceptions but 25 touchdowns. As a result, the Steelers would still make the playoffs, only to lose to Tim Tebow and the Denver Broncos in a heartbreaking overtime touchdown. The Chargers would miss the playoffs once again, and Norv Turner can feel his seat warming up. He would actually be let go in 2012 in a move that comes as a result of the Chargers not being able to find a suitable replacement for LaDainian Tomlinson, which is kind of unfair because LaDainian Tomlinson was the greatest halfback of that generation. The Giants would go 10-6 and make it to the Super Bowl. Only this time, there's no Eli Manning magic, and the Giants would lose to the Patriots 17-13 as the Giants struggled to get any offensive rhythm going against the Patriots. So to recap, Eli Manning does have a slightly less decorated career, but he's respected way more as a quarterback due to the competition in the AFC with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. LaDainian Tomlinson, Vincent Jackson, and the Chargers win a Super Bowl, which may lead to more front office stability, and who knows, maybe the Chargers would still be in San Diego, although I'm not going that far to suggest that, I'm saying it's a possibility. Philip Rivers wins a championship, and Ben Roethlisberger wins one less championship. So at the end of the day, individually for Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning, the original scenario is better. But for LaDainian Tomlinson and the Chargers, Philip Rivers, and us as NFL fans, I would have to say that the what if would have been better. Imagine seeing the Manning Bowl consistently, or even in the AFC Championship. That would have been awesome. Now guys, if you enjoyed this what if video, please be sure to leave a like. I had to try to make a video like this after seeing your response to my Drew Bledsoe what if. Now, if you guys didn't check that out, I'm going to leave it in an annotation or in the description down below. But if you have any other what if scenarios that you would like to see me do, let me know in the comment section. Besides that, I'm your boy, The Flight Mike. I'll see you guys in the next video.